Now let's make the tabletop and bench tops. I lay out my stock on the assembly table to strategize my cuts, and although I'd love to keep these boards at full width, I decide to cut them down into narrower boards. Here's why. Now, even though this is considered a fairly rustic project and a few dings and scratches, knots here and there are no big deal, you still want to pay attention to the grain, and you need to understand what's going on with the boards to prevent problems from happening in the future. And let me show you what's becoming a bit of an issue on these wider panels, basically the top of the table and the seat tops. If you look at the end grain, it really tells the story. In the center here, we have what's known as the pith. Anytime you include the pith in a project, it's just asking for problems because this is where a lot of the cracking and the movement will originate from. So if you can avoid that, it's always a good thing. Now, if you look at the top of this board, you could see I'm already experiencing cracks right there along the line of the pith. All right, so this is something that you really do want to remove. And as you can see below, I've actually got a board that's been split down the middle, and really we're not going to sacrifice that much. We're only going to take maybe the middle inch or so, 3/4 of an inch, to remove the pith, and then what we wind up with is two much more stable boards. It's a little bit more in terms of gluing this up, because now we have two boards instead of one, but I think it's worth it for the stability. The boards are cut to rough length at the miter saw, and then ripped at the bandsaw to remove the pith. The resulting boards are jointed and planed to size. Ooh, pretty. The boards are then ripped to width at the table saw. While large and heavy, this tabletop is really nothing more than a giant panel. Spread the glue quickly and get those clamps in place. Be sure to scrape away the glue after it skins over, but before it becomes hard. And now it's the same deal for the bench tops. Once the glue is completely dry, I use my jack plane to clean up the top. The glue up is already flat, but the jack plane helps to level the surface and removes any irregularities. Plus, it's a great workout. The surface is then sanded thoroughly. Using a large square, I set up my track saw guide and cut off one end of the tabletop. I repeat the process on the other side, cutting the top to its final length. Don't have a track saw? Try making your own track using sheet goods and a regular circular saw. The breadboards on this table are optional, but I think they make for a handsome addition while also helping to keep our table flat over time. There are lots of methods for making breadboard ends, but here's one using the Domino XL. I cut 6 mortises into the ends of the table. In the breadboard ends, I cut the 2 center mortises on the tight setting. Using the loose setting, I cut all the outer mortises. This extra slop is going to allow our table to safely expand and contract over time. With the tenons glued into the table side, I slide the breadboard end into place. And notice that I'm only applying glue to the center tenons. The outside tenons must be allowed to move freely from side to side. With the end clamped in place, I drill through the breadboard end into the tenon, being careful not to go all the way through the board. I then drive a wooden dowel into the hole and through the tenon. The last ½ inch of the dowel receives glue to lock it into the breadboard. The dowels are driven into the outside tenons only, not the glued up tenons. Using a flush trim saw, I trim the dowels cleanly. Cutting the bench tops to size is much easier using the sliding compound miter saw. The top is too wide to do it in one cut, so I just flip it and get as close as I can with the second cut. Sanding will take care of any unevenness. Each corner of the tops needs to be rounded over, not just for looks, but for comfort and the sake of a little toddler's head. I usually use whatever I have laying around to create the shape. A coarse rasp makes quick work of the roundover. The tops are now rounded over to match the rest of the pieces, and everything is sanded to 220 grit. To protect the bottom of the legs where moisture is most likely to penetrate, I'm using a product called Clear Penetrating Epoxy Sealer. This 2-part mixture will soak into the end grain and make it pretty much impervious to moisture. Once mixed, I paint it onto the bottom of the legs. Blue tape helps to hold potential drips under control. I apply numerous coats over the course of a few minutes. While not an essential step, this is something that I like to do with all of my outdoor pieces. The primary finish I'm using for the table and benches is Watco teak oil. It's essentially an oil varnish blend formulated for outdoor use. It's a fairly light-duty finish that offers some protection but yields a more natural-looking end product. I'm not a big fan of thick film finishes for outdoor projects. The product is applied generously to the wood surface, giving it 10 to 15 minutes to absorb. This cedar drinks up the first coat in no time. Any excess is wiped off with an old sock. And yes, you have to use an old sock. The next day, I apply a second coat in the same fashion. Now with the table upside down, I center the base on the top and prepare to attach our screw blocks. The blocks on the side are installed with plenty of room on either side. I pre-drill and then drive the screw. Side-to-side movement in the slot isn't as much of an issue on the long sides of the table, but front-to-back movement is. So I pull the block out by about a 1/4 inch and allow for expansion and contraction. Incidentally, I do have some stainless steel screws on order. These are just temporary placeholders that actually aren't intended for outdoor use, but I'll replace them later. So after 2 good coats of that teak oil, this table is ready to go outside. Now here's the thing, teak oil is not a maintenance-free finish. In about a year, maybe 2 if I'm lucky, I probably will have to apply another coat. The thing with this oil is it absorbs deep into the fibers, and it's not really providing a film like a full-strength varnish would. This is really just an oil varnish blend, but it's very dilute. So it does provide some protection, but not as much as a film. The good thing about this, though, is it's very easy to reapply. That little bit of maintenance that I have to do every 1 or 2 years is really no big deal. I just give it a light sanding and then come back and reapply another coat of oil, and it's going to look great. Whereas if I have a film finish that fails on me, that film finish needs to be scraped, sanded, or stripped off, and then you got to start over again. All right, so for me, this is a good compromise solution. All right, now I hope you build one of these tables for yourself. If you do, you should send me some pictures. I'd love to put them on the website. And we do, of course, have plans for you to download, a SketchUp plan, and even a cut list where you could get all the sizes for the various parts for this project. And I hope you build along. So thanks for watching, and best of luck with your woodworking.
I guess this'll do.
This is the reason why I need this table.
Please make me a table. God.
What do you want me to say?
Make me a table.
Build me a table.
And there's a big crack right here.
It's rustic.